So if you want to get the most out of your Osmo Mobile 8, then watch this video. And I'm going to show you how to get the most cinematic footage using this device. So I always tell my students on Patreon that smartphone gimbals come in different categories, and the 8th generation of the Osmo Mobile gimbal is basically in the lightweight category, and it folds up nice and small. So for that reason, it's really a great choice for video creators on the move who don't want to get weighed down with bulky gear. The OM8 has added a few new features since the OM7 and the OM7P. So for starters, the OM8 has full 360 degrees unlimited pan, and it now also has pet tracking. The pan axis can tilt forward, and that makes it easier to track your dog when you're going for a walk. There's now Apple DockKit for iOS users, which means that you can track a person in loads of different apps. They've also beefed up the magnetic clamp, so your phone's extra secure. They've added a USB-C port on the roll axis to charge your phone while you shoot, and they brought back the good old counterweight port so you can balance out those extra lenses and filters. So I'm going to show you how to get to grips with all that, how to connect your DJI Mics, how to use the extendable handle, and how to use ActiveTrack 7, and all the other stuff that you can think of. Now, once you've activated your gimbal using the DJI Mimo app and charged it using the USB-C port on the side, the next thing to do is mount your smartphone to the clamp. Attach the clamp so that the camera symbol points towards the cameras of your phone. You can use your phone with or without a case, and the Osmo Mobile 8 supports smartphones, including case weighing 170 to 300 grams, with a width of 67 to 84 millimeters and a thickness of 6.9 to 10 millimeters. While there is the option to purchase a MagSafe clamp, the multifunctional module needs to use the regular clamp. You've got these 4 prongs which connect the module to the gimbal. And anyway, I actually find that the regular clamp is more secure than the MagSafe version, because actually if you knock the MagSafe clamp out of alignment, the strength of the magnet is much weaker. Now make sure the clamp is flat against the back of your phone. When you attach the clamp to the gimbal, you can see these 4 prongs, and they need to match the 4 contacts on the gimbal motor. So again, just make sure there's no gaps and that the smartphone is level in the clamp. Now to power on the gimbal, all you need to do is open it out and it auto powers on. If you fold up the gimbal, it's going to power off. But you can also power the gimbal on and off by long pressing the M button. To refold the gimbal, position the roll motor so that when you fold the gimbal, it sits against the trigger. And this little pin here should sit in the indentation to stop it moving around while you're carrying it. If you find that your phone isn't level, you can use the DJI Mimo app auto calibration. And if it still isn't right, just go into the app and then adjust the level manually. So if you're out filming and it's like, oh, how does it work? I can't remember. You just can't remember what a particular button does or how to activate a certain feature. There's actually a quick way to remind yourself. Open up the settings in the Mimo app by tapping the 3 dots in the bottom left corner. Go to the gimbal settings and then go to the gimbal quick start guide. And here you're going to find a few screens which tell you what each button does and the meaning of all the lights and indicators. Make sure you have Bluetooth enabled on your phone, and if the gimbal is switched on when you open the DJI Mimo app, it should find the gimbal and pair automatically. Go ahead and update firmware if you see this message at the top of the screen. You can use your gimbal with or without the Mimo app, but certain features are only available via the app. For example, ActiveTrack. On the front of the gimbal, we have the record button. Press once to start and stop recording and to take a photo. And this is going to work with any camera app, including your phone's native app. So here's a tip to get some really smooth footage. Don't start recording and then run around like it's the Gimbal Olympics. Move as slowly and as carefully as you can. And here's another trick. Go into the Mimo app and switch the follow speed to medium or to slow. And now the gimbal is going to ease smoothly into and out of any movement. So when you stop your motion, you want the camera to come to rest on your subject. So just wait a beat as the gimbal catches up. See how it eases out of the movement? And this is what your gimbal can do that's much harder to do just holding your phone in your hands. And this is what a lot of people don't understand about using a gimbal. So they're not really getting the most out of it. Let the gimbal do the work for you. That's why you bought it. Now, to get an even smoother shot, use the native app and switch to 60 or 120 frames per second. And then when you edit the video, slow this to 30 frames per second. So this is good for B-roll. And if you add extra stabilization, you're going to get beautiful, buttery smooth cinematic video. And these are all the kinds of tips that you can actually find in my book, Smartphone Videography Beginner to Advanced, which is available via Amazon. And obviously I'm going to put all the links to everything in this video in the description. So this is the switch button, and if you're using the Mimo app, press this once and it's going to switch between front and rear cameras. Pressing it twice switches between horizontal and vertical. Press 3 times to switch between video and photos mode in the Mimo app. Now here we have the mode button, which is also the power button. Long press the button to power the gimbal on or off, press once to switch the modes of your gimbal, and essentially what this does is tell the gimbal which motors to use to follow your movements. When you change modes, the current mode is going to be indicated by these white symbols. So there's 4 of them, and obviously 1 for each mode. PTF, or pan and tilt follow, follows horizontal and tilt movement, but it locks the roll movement. And this is a good mode for general use, and it also allows you to move and then tilt up and down when you're moving. We've got pan follow, and this locks the tilt and the roll, and it just follows your pan movement. So this is going to be good for tracking shots, and as well you can extend the handle and create a really cool cinematic looking crane shot if you hold it sideways. First person view follows all movements, and this is good for more kind of creative shots where you want complete freedom just to move the camera, and it's a little bit like taking your audience on a roller coaster ride. And then a similar kind of shot, which is the spin shot, and this is for creative barrel roll effects. And in this mode, you've got to push the joystick left or right to turn your smartphone in a circle. But if you do actually find that your phone is angling up slightly, you can actually straighten it just by pulling up the pan motor a little bit and then just adjust the hinge that's level. The joystick is actually touch sensitive, and this means that you can adjust the speed of movement by how much you push the joystick. If you want to create a slow barrel roll, for example, you can just push the joystick a small way, left or right, but if you push it all the way, you can see that it goes much faster. Press and hold the trigger to enter locked mode, and now none of the motors are going to respond to your movements. And this is useful for smooth kind of push or pull movements where you want a kind of maximum stability and you don't want accidental shifts in your framing. Double press the trigger to recenter the camera, and you're going to find that you use that a lot. If you double press the trigger and then hold, you're now in sport mode, and this makes the gimbal react quicker to your movement. Personally, I would just take the phone from the gimbal for fast reaction shots. And that's another important tip. Don't use the gimbal for every shot, because some shots are just going to look better handheld or maybe using a tripod. So you've got this magnetic clamp, why not make use of it? Just take the phone off the gimbal and get some shots handheld. Tap the trigger 3 times and the gimbal is going to turn 180 degrees. So if you want to film yourself with the rear camera instead, this is basically the quickest way to achieve that. But the only issue, of course, is that you can't see yourself for framing. Personally, when I'm filming myself and I want to check the framing, I use my Apple Watch. So this is just the basic Apple Watch SE. The DJI Mimo app now supports Apple Watches, so you can monitor yourself as well as use it for basic remote control. Once your Apple Watch is connected to DJI Mimo, you're going to get this screen with a record button, and you can just tap that to start and stop recording. Tap the left icon and you have 3 more buttons. On the left is the orientation switch for horizontal or vertical. In the middle is the joystick, and on the right we have the recenter button. Tap the X to go back to the previous screen. If you tap the button on the right, you're going to start tracking. The Mimo app then looks for a face and then locks onto it. And now if I move the gimbal, it's going to follow me. Tap again to stop tracking. When you capture media using the Apple Watch, you're going to see the last image appears bottom left. You can tap that to view it, but it seems that at the moment anyway, you can only view a still image, so you can't actually watch back any video this way. You can also use your Apple Watch with the native camera app of your phone. but you're not going to get any of the remote controls other than the record button and the preview monitor for framing. Tap the three dots and you can actually switch between the front and rear cameras, as well as switch on the flashlight. So one of the main selling points of a smartphone gimbal is its tracking capabilities. And tracking in a gimbal is really a significant advantage and obviously a strong reason to buy one. So the Osmo Mobile 8 now offers 3 main tracking methods. So when you're using the DJI Mimo app, you can use Active Track 7 to select a subject or an object on your phone screen, and the gimbal will automatically track it. So the app also supports multi-subject tracking, and that lets you switch targets by tapping these different detection boxes. With the OM8, we now have Apple DockKit tracking, which is obviously an iPhone-only feature. Make sure Bluetooth is enabled on your iPhone, which it probably is because you need it to be enabled to connect to your gimbal anyway. Now, NFC with iOS 26 actually runs in the background, so you don't have to enable it on iPhones because basically it's always enabled. Now, Apple DockKit does not work with the multifunctional module attached, so you have to remove that first. And then hold your iPhone close to the NFC area of the gimbal, which is marked with this sticker. And this actually uses the same tech as when you're using your phone to pay for something, like using Apple Pay or Google Pay. Now you should get a pop-up window, so tap to connect, and now your OM8 is connected to your iPhone using the NFC connection. And you can use any app that supports Apple DockKit, like your native camera app, FaceTime, Blackmagic Camera, and so on. On the downside, it only tracks people's faces, and actually it doesn't perform as well as other forms of tracking. It's a little bit sort of laggy, it's sort of slow to react. Now the idea is that once you've gone through this procedure, setting up the DockKit, it should automatically connect next time your iPhone is near the powered up gimbal. But this isn't exactly how it works in reality, because this is what actually happens. So first you make the connection, place your phone on the gimbal, open a compatible app. So here I'm using the native iPhone app. When you see that grey square, that means it's found your face but it hasn't locked on yet. Once it goes yellow, now it's tracking you. And the green light on top of the pan motor is going to pulse when it's tracking as well. Okay, so fine, press record and record something, or do a FaceTime or whatever. But now when we close the camera app, we get this little DockKit symbol in the dynamic island, which tells you that DockKit is running in the background. And in fact, it's still tracking me as I move around, even without the camera. But now when we open the DJI Mimo app, it connects to that instead, and the DockKit connection is disabled. And it also switches off DockKit in the background. So now when I switch back to the native camera, we'd expect that it's just going to connect back to the DockKit again, wouldn't we? That sort of makes sense, doesn't it? But actually, it doesn't do that. And if we want to start DockKit tracking again, we're going to need to take the phone off and then go through the same procedure as we did when we first set it up. And it even says here in this little box, configuring for the first time, even though it's already configured from before, you would have thought, but apparently not. So once it's sort of disconnected from DockKit, you have to do this again, and then you have to go through that, and you have to wait for it to finish configuring for the first time. And so really, it's not a very convenient feature. And anyway, the tracking isn't as good as when using the AI tracker. So if you've got the AI tracker, I don't see why you would ever use this. Maybe if you just don't want to carry the AI tracker, or you prefer the tracking when you just open up the camera and it starts immediately tracking you and you don't have to, press the trigger or whatever. And in my opinion, the AI tracker works 100% of the time and it's better at tracking. So the Osmo Mobile 8 includes a multifunctional module with an optical sensor. And this enables tracking even when you're using your phone's native camera app or third-party apps like Instagram or TikTok or Blackmagic. So the multifunctional module clips easily onto the magnetic clamp. At the back of the module is a button which opens and closes the clips that hold the module onto the clamp, along with the magnet. And at the front, we've got the camera and we've got the light. Now, if you want to use the module as a light, like a fill light, then on the right side we have 2 buttons. First, we have the power and brightness button. Short press to power on the light, and keep pressing to cycle through the brightness levels. And if you keep going, it eventually just switches off. The second button cycles through the temperature settings. So you can have a cold light or a warm light or something in between. And you can long press the wheel at the side to power on or off the light. Turn the wheel and that's going to adjust brightness or temperature. And to switch between those two settings, just short press the wheel. Now if you want to use the module for tracking, you've got to switch out of the Mimo app and use another app. Because if you use the Mimo app, the gimbal is going to disable the module tracking and it's going to use the Mimo tracking instead. You know, the Active Track 7. And actually, even if the phone screen is off, the module is still going to function as a subject tracker. So if I switch to the iPhone native camera, I can now use the module for tracking. The light here needs to be red before you start tracking. So there's two ways to get tracking. The first way is to press the trigger once, and the module uses faces to track. So if it sees a face, it's going to start tracking. And if it sees more than one face, it's going to start tracking the most prominent. So when it's tracking a subject, the module light goes green. And the second way is to use a hand gesture, hold up the palm of your hand and the light goes green again. So if you want to adjust the subject position, make this U sign with both hands. And the light now goes yellow. The subject can move position within the frame and then make the sign again. The yellow light goes green again, and the gimbal is going to try to keep the subject in this new position. To get it to start recording or to take a photo, make the V gesture with your hand. So you then get a countdown and then it starts recording or it takes a photo depending on which mode you're in. To stop recording, make the V sign again, and then you're going to get another countdown before it stops. So in the app, if you have the Multifunctional Module active, you now get a menu of settings for the module. Tap the three dots, bottom left, to open settings as normal. And you're going to see 4 icons instead of 3. The second one down is the module settings button, which is shaped like the module. If you tap that, at the top we have follow speed. And if you want the tracking to be slow and smooth, and the subject isn't going to be moving too fast, then set this in the middle or move towards the slow end. If you're tracking faster subjects, then move this towards the faster end of the slider. Next is gesture settings. Using gesture control is really convenient, but sometimes people in the frame make the gestures by accident and end up, accidentally stopping the tracking and recording. So if you've got an issue with this, you can then just switch the gestures off here. And if you don't have the DJI mic connected, then the wireless mic settings will be grayed out. But when you do connect the mic, you can get some pretty extensive audio controls here. But I'll talk about those in the next section, which is all about using the module as a wireless mic receiver. So when you're tracking with the module, you can only track faces or pets. If you want to track other objects, then you need to use the Mimo app. The multifunctional module can connect to up to 2 DJI wireless mics and works with the DJI Mic 2, the DJI Mic 3, and the Mic Minis. To use the multifunctional module as a receiver for the DJI mics, first you're going to need to connect the module to your smartphone via the USB-C charging port. If you have an iPhone with a lightning port, you're going to need a USB-C to lightning cable. Now we need to enable the Bluetooth pairing on the module by long pressing the button with the link symbol next to it. The green lights on the opposite side flash green. Next, you're going to need to power on your DJI mic and enable Bluetooth pairing on that as well, and they should now automatically pair. And when they're paired, lights on the module and on the mic will go green, and now you're ready to start recording. Once your DJI mic is connected, you can now use the Bluetooth connection button as a remote control to start and stop recording. Okay, now I have the mic connected, I can go back into the app and open wireless mic settings. At the top, we have the battery level of the mic, and below is a live audio level meter. And below that is all the settings for the Mic Mini transmitter. So you can choose between strong or basic noise cancellation, and you can choose to have a mono or stereo audio track. If you choose mono, you can then use the second channel as a safety channel. And what this does is record the same audio on both channels, but one channel is going to be recorded at a lower level. So if you get a sudden peak in the audio level and it clips, and you get that kind of distortion, then you have this lower level audio as a backup. And below that is a gain level control. And then we have a low cut filter, which you can use to remove lower frequencies. So that's good for voice recording. If you want to reduce, say, wind rumbles and anything that's in the lower frequency, and it can help to improve the quality of the audio. If you have clipping control toggled on, then it's going to automatically adjust volume, and it's to avoid any clipping. So if you have this set, it's going to compress the audio, and therefore you don't need to use the safety track. If you want your audio recorded without compression, switch this off. Below that, we have some more settings for how the Mic Mini operates. And one last thing, you don't need to use the DJI Mimo app when you're recording to use the mic. You can use any other app, so you can use the native app, and it's still gonna record audio using the mic. So the OM8 has inbuilt tripod legs like the OM7 and 7P, and that means you don't have to carry around the mini tripod as you did with the OM6 and earlier versions. And this is going to be useful for taking group photos or videos where you want to put yourself in the frame as well. Set the gimbal on a flat surface and then use the gesture control to take a photo or start recording. As well, if you're live streaming, you can set the gimbal on a table or some other surface, and now you can live stream hands-free. And if you use the tracking module, the gimbal is going to keep you in the frame and your viewers won't miss any of the action. And you can also use this for hands-free video calls. So if you want to move around, you can, and the gimbal is going to follow your movement. So the OM8 has the good old handle extension like the previous versions since the OM5. And the most obvious use for this is selfies and group selfies. And it's also useful for vlogging and solo filming. Just hold the handle and pull the pan motor upwards. At the end, there's also this hinge which you can bend up to 90 degrees, and with the OM8 this can now bend both ways, and this gives you a lot of flexibility for angling the camera of your phone. To make your videos more cinematic and more engaging, it's always good to have lots of different types of shots. High angle looking down, a low angle looking up, for example. You can do crane shots, you can do drone style shots, and so on. And here's another tip. The Osmo Mobile does have quite limited tilt movement, and this can make it hard to angle your phone towards yourself or your subject. So to fix this problem, you can just adjust the angle of the head of the stick. As well, you can extend the handle to capture various low and high angles. With a sideways shooting style, you can create epic Hollywood-style crane shots. And you can get one of those little fake drone shots, just raising it above your head. You are a little bit limited with this extending handle. So if you want to go really high and get something that really does look like a drone shot, you can just add something like a monopod like the one I've got here. And then you can really extend it and get those shots where you're flying over the scene. And that can look really cool. The DJI Mimo app Active Track has been updated from version 6 to 7. When capturing images with the Mimo app, the app looks for human faces within the frame. And if it finds any, it places a box around the face with this little green arrow here. So you just tap on the box to choose which face to track, and it's going to start tracking that face. Alternatively, you can tap the trigger once, and the app is going to start tracking whichever face has this green arrow. If you want to switch to a different face, you can just tap on the box around their face. So you can do that before recording or even during recording. And with this update, Active Track will now stick to whoever you tell it to track, and it's not going to switch to different faces. Like with the previous version, when you switch to the front camera, the app automatically starts tracking the most prominent face. To stop tracking, either tap the X in the corner of the tracking box or tap the trigger once more. With Active Track 7, you can now keep tracking the selected subject as you zoom in and out. So you can even switch between different cameras on your phone, and it's going to keep tracking. The tracking should remain smooth all the way up to maximum zoom. So in this case, I'm using an iPhone 16 Pro, which goes up to 8 times zoom in the Mimo app. And as well, Active Track 7 also allows you to effectively track pets and other animals. One of the signs of an amateur video is the overuse of the side-to-side shot. You know, what we might call a pan shot. So it is very tempting when you're filming just to sweep from left to right or right to left to capture the whole scene. You know, I've seen videos that are made up just of like side-to-side shots, one after the other, and it really doesn't look very good. So one way to avoid this bad habit is to start thinking about motivating your camera movement. So I've actually made a whole lesson for members on Patreon all about this subject, but here I'm just going to give you a quick explainer. Motivating your camera movement is going to make a huge difference to your videos. It's often the difference between a kind of pro-looking video and a not so pro-looking video. One simple way to motivate your camera movement is just to follow a subject. So rather than this side-to-side shot, which is a little bit aimless, instead you could follow a car, you could follow any kind of vehicle, you could follow a pet, or you can follow a human subject. I mean, really anything that's moving. And this, basically, like I say, this motivates the camera movement. So it just gives it a purpose, and then your audience is going to be much more engaged because essentially you're telling them what to look at. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we go into in depth in my lessons and courses on Patreon. Now, if you press the wheel, you can switch between zoom and focus. And in the Mimo app, top right, you're going to see that there's a lens symbol with ZM or MF. And this tells you whether you are in zoom or manual focus mode. So you can only use this feature in the Mimo app, but it allows you to make nice, smooth focus pulls while you're recording. And again, this is just motivating and it's kind of telling your audience what to look at, and it can really add a professional production value to your videos. Now, Quick Start is a feature which automatically starts the Mimo app as soon as you mount an iPhone to the gimbal. So as far as I know, this feature only works with iPhones. If you set your iPhone correctly, the Mimo app sends you a little notification, and then you can just tap that to open the app. And it does make it a little bit easier, especially if you have a lot of apps to scroll through and you're sort of hunting to find the Mimo app. First of all, in Mimo app settings, select the General tab and then scroll down and toggle on Quick Launch. Next, make sure your phone isn't in Do Not Disturb mode, because this is going to prevent notifications from any apps, including Mimo. Open Settings for your iPhone, go to the DJI Mimo app and then tap that, tap Notifications and then Allow Notifications. Make sure that Location and Precise Location are enabled for the app. Don't know why you need to do that, but apparently you do. So after doing all that, when you place the iPhone onto the Osmo Mobile 7, you should get this little notification, so then you can just tap that and off you go. Your Osmo Mobile 8 can actually serve as a power bank to charge your phone through one of the USB ports on the gimbal body. So if you're using the multifunctional module, you can connect it to your phone while also connecting a power bank to the gimbal's USB-C port, enabling even longer battery life. Connect a USB-C cable to your phone from the new USB-C port, and the gimbal now supplies power to your phone. If you want to use that counterweight port, you're going to need to buy some counterweights that are sold separately. But if you have old ones like I do, I'm afraid they don't work, because the problem is that they knock against the arm of the gimbal. And so what you need is these kind of tapered ones. Apparently the only place you can get them is by contacting DJI customer support, and they will send them to you. But the general idea is that they counterbalance anything that you put on the other side of the phone. So if you put a lens there or a filter or both, then you can use these weights to balance out the weight. So if you want to boost your skills a bit, you can come over onto Patreon. Otherwise, there's the book. Apart from that, see you in the next video.